Cities VR, the virtual reality version of Cities Skylines, is out. This means that I finally have a city builder to talk about and do shenanigans with on this channel, but it also means that a whole new genre is available on the MetaQuest 2. However, this comes with some questions. The most important of all being, does virtual reality really add anything to the Cities Skylines experience? Now, I'd like to start this by saying that I love to see VR come to new genres, and regardless of whether or not traditional city builders benefit from being in VR, I love to see new experiences in virtual reality. At the end of the day, even if something doesn't work out, we will all still learn and grow as players and as developers. Now that being said, I don't think there's necessarily a ton to learn here. I have a lot of the same gripes with Cities VR as I had with Eternal Starlight, and now honestly, those gripes are even worse and more valid. For the vast majority of players who have never heard of Eternal Starlight, it is to the RTS genre as Cities VR is to the city builder genre on the MetaQuest 2. Eternal Starlight is the only RTS on the Quest 2. Now, all those gripes that I mentioned about Eternal Starlight were basically this. It takes a genre, RTS, that is built for flat screen gaming and moves it over to VR, but doesn't add enough to make it work better in VR than the exact same experience would on a flat screen. Still, Eternal Starlight had the benefit of utilizing 3D space effectively in its combat and controls, and being a game that was originally made for virtual reality. Due to this, it would actually utilize hand controls extensively in its basic interactions, therefore making the virtual reality aspect somewhat enhance the game itself, if not the gameplay. Cities VR does not benefit from that, as it is a direct port of an experience built for the flat screen to virtual reality. Now, there are plenty of games that are also ports without much change to gameplay, but are still fantastic in VR. Take, for instance, Doom 3 Quest by Dr. Beef & Co. It is a direct port of Doom 3, an early 2000s horror shooter, but it is also a fantastic game on the Quest 2. The difference between Doom 3 Quest and Cities VR is a difference of genre. Doom 3 is a first-person shooter, and the genre conventions of first-person shooters translate very well to virtual reality. After all, VR is the ultimate form of first-person. There is as little as possible between the player and the virtual experience. Pointing a weapon is very natural to do with your physical arms, and so is made even more intuitive in VR when compared to pointing that same weapon with a mouse. The city building genre is more difficult to port to VR, and is more constrained by virtual reality. On a normal screen, spreadsheets, menus, and options for building and managing can be compressed into sidebars and expanded into their own windows. There's a lot of real estate to cover on a monitor. However, in virtual reality, a player can only really handle a single menu in their face at the same time, because a menu will take up most of their vision. Having multiple menus floating in a player's face will not only make those menus hard to read, but also potentially be overwhelming for a player. At the same time, all selections must be done using a more limited control scheme with no full keyboard available for use. Selections must be done more slowly with selection wheels and a limited number of buttons. This effectively means the player can view less information and access that information less efficiently, meaning that managing their city is more difficult overall than it would be on a flat screen. So, the long and short of this is that a city builder is made more difficult by being in VR. So if a city builder is made more difficult by being in VR, does it at least look better? Well, that answer is really up to your opinion. To someone like myself who loves virtual reality as a way to become closer to experiences that otherwise would either be impossible to access or, in the case of flat screen gaming, less immersive, it still has some charm. Zooming through my city like a bird, I can see the people go to work. I can see ambulances and other emergency service vehicles go to their destinations and assist my citizens. By craning my neck, I can see my living city from the same perspective as an omnipotent god. However, I am not an omnipotent god. If there is any role to play in Cities VR, it is that of a mayor or other public servant, maybe a city planner, beholden to keep your people happy because of the rules of the game as set in the original Cities Skylines incentivize you to. So this view does not take me closer to the experience that the game attempts to replicate. Rather, it's a gimmick. It gives the opportunity for some cool visuals, and building is a little more fun in VR. Overall, The view you get on a headset is much the same as you would get on a screen. It's just harder to interact with things, and you have to move your neck down in some awkward positions sometimes. The only other difference is that the controls are also not as good. Not to mention, most computers have the ability to play the same game at a higher level of visual fidelity. It is sometimes painfully obvious how limited the hardware of the MetaQuest 2 is when displaying a game as expansive as Cities VR. From my limited knowledge of the business side of the games industry, a PC VR version of Cities Skylines could have just been added to the original game for those who own it, just as similar games such as The Forest have already done. That would have let true VR fanatics take advantage of viewing their city in VR while not having to buy a completely new game to do so. Instead, it was decided that a separate port and release on the more accessible MetaQuest 2 should be undertaken. No doubt Meta themselves desired this, as they are clearly pushing to have new quality titles released on their standalone platform. At the same time, it also gives the creators of Cities VR a new source of revenue and a new source of marketing for their game, not to mention an additional platform that people who might not have otherwise tried their game may try it on. Though, at the same time, Cities VR does not seem to be a lot of content for $30. It is a straightforward port of a game in a genre that does not really benefit much from being in virtual reality. For those reasons, I can answer the original question stated in this video with certainty. No. Cities Skylines is not enhanced by being in virtual reality. VR is a gimmick to this game, as it was not originally made or intended for VR, and no new mechanics or provisions have been made to enhance it as a VR experience. Hand controls and controllers only get in the way of the interactions that you need to do in traditional city builders. Maybe one day there will be a city builder, which was built specifically for virtual reality, that is better for being in virtual reality. Unfortunately, that day is not today, and that game that is better for being in virtual reality will need a lot of hard work and a lot of intensive thought to be a reality. Now, if you really do want to experience a city builder in VR, then Cities VR is definitely your destination, and Cities Skylines is a good city builder. It's just not really enhanced by being in VR. Thank you for watching. This has been Reality Remake. Have fun out there building your city.